This is a generational heist for the Los Angeles Lakers as a brand new report has dropped surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers and a huge move regarding a center. We're going to break down exactly who that is and discuss what this means going forward, as well as discuss multiple other huge new trade updates as it pertains to the Lakers' plans ahead of the most critical offseason in the last decade for this team. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks, before we get into it. If you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, but 90% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable, so thank you for that. And if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all the latest Lakers news all season and all off season now long, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, Rob Pelinka had his post, season press conference, all these different things, and we got a bunch of insight into what his plan is and what kind of moves he's going to be looking to make. And we have some new reports that have dropped, revealing some huge details surrounding one particular player. And you saw him there, and you saw him in the intro video. So NBA.com dropped an article ranking the top 5 centers LA could realistically get this summer by Andy Bailey. And of course, among this, there is a lot of different centers. You see this here. The alternatives last season were Jackson Hayes, Alex Len, and Jared Vanderbilt. It's a front office problem, and it's one the Lakers can fix this offseason because Dallas Mavericks got nowhere near what Luka Doncic was worth in that trade. The Lakers can aggregate plenty of salary with Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, Vando, Gabe, Kleber, all these guys. If they want to get aggressive, they can. And in case anyone's wondering, they have, like I mentioned in previous videos, their swaps in 2026, 2028, 2030, 2031, and 2032. Now, the number one target on the top 5 centers the Lakers could realistically land here is Jaren Jackson Jr. You can see this here. He goes on to say that this would be the toughest target to land, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is number 1 on the list because he'd also be the best. The concerns is it would cost a lot of capital and probably Reaves, but the Grizzlies are enough of a mess to offer for an offer like that to tempt them. And if the Lakers were lucky enough to land him, they'll be on the hook for his next contract. So I want you guys to let me know down below what your thoughts are on Jaren Jackson Jr. And I have a proposed trade here in a minute, which a writer dropped, which we'll dive into as well. He's a seamless fit, right? He is a perfect fit for this team. Now, giving up Austin Reaves, I'm not so sure about that. However, if you can get him without giving up Austin Reaves, or either way, this is a perfect fit for this team. It would mean that Luka, JJJ were LA's long-term top 2, and it would likely be worth it. If you're unfamiliar with his game, I mean, the best rim protector in the league, in my opinion at least, maybe alongside Rudy Gobert is pretty good as well, and Victor Wembanyama when healthy. One of his few weaknesses, rebounding, is a strength of Luka, and unlike some of the other options, Jackson isn't just a threat as a roller out of ball screens. He's also a pick and pop option. Like, this would make a lot of sense. You get Luka Doncic, a long-term big man partner. And that's something I think they need to consider here. If you're going to make any swing for moves, you ideally want someone that lines up with Luka Doncic's timeline age-wise, as Jaren Jackson does. Of course, skill-wise when it comes to being a lob threat, but Jaren Jackson Jr. can shoot the hell out of the ball. He can shoot it fantastically. He'll be able to stretch the floor, which will also allow Luka to kind of, when he drives, of course, the gravity tends to attract towards him. He can kick it to JJJ. Not only that, fantastic defender. Rebounding is not his strong suit, and that's one of the things. The problem is, it's going to be hard to find a center who can do it all in that regard. I'm fine with, sacrificing a little bit of rebounding. He would be able to go up against a lot of the big men that the Lakers struggle with. You have Jaren Jackson Jr. on the team instead of Jackson Hayes or whoever else you want to throw in that last series against the Timberwolves. It would help a lot. Of course, they are huge. They have Rudy Gobert, all these different things. And if you're the Grizzlies, like you struggled last year, are you going to build around Jaren Jackson Jr. with an upcoming contract, or are you going to try to build around Ja Morant? And that's, of course, one of the question marks that they're going to have to answer internally. But looking at his stats here, I mean, he averaged last season 22 points a game, 1.5 blocks, 2 assists. He shot 37.5% from 3. Like, he's an extremely good player. He won Defensive Player of the Year just 2 years ago. And obviously, his defense has fallen off a little bit as it pertains to the stats and the counting numbers. I think a lot of that is, I mean, the Grizzlies, last year without Ja Morant were not a very good team. This year they were a very, very good team, but he's starting to fall off a little bit. And we, of course, looking at the advanced metrics, all these different things, that would have to be something to keep in mind. Is that just because he doesn't like it in Memphis anymore? Is it because he's losing some? But he's only 25 years old. He fits perfectly alongside Luka Doncic, and I'm very confident he can get back to his Defensive Player of the Year status. Now, he's probably not the best defender right now. I mentioned that earlier. Probably not the best rim protector right now, but he is up there. Like, he has the raw ability to be one of the best rim protectors, even though it's fallen off the past few years. But 3-point shooting, elite. Blocks, very solid. Rebounding, he only averages 5 rebounds a game. You would need to compensate for that other, elsewhere. Whether you get a rebounding focused big, a guy like Steven Adams or something like that as your backup. Regardless, he would fit perfectly. And then you have 2 pieces to go alongside, this team. So one piece to go alongside Luka Doncic that you can build around. And we know Luka, he needs his, a locked in center. Of course, in Dallas, he had Daniel Gafford. He had Derek Lively. And now in LA, he hasn't really had anyone, yet. And you can see this here. Mark Williams was Luka Doncic's preferred lob threat partner from a list of potential trade targets and communicated that with the team. However, Lakers just couldn't live with what they saw on the Williams physical. So, comparing Mark Williams to Jaren Jackson Jr., it's a little bit different. Williams is a much more physical and a more rebound oriented guy who can't shoot the ball, but he can run the pick and roll. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. provides a bit of depth both ways. You can kind of get a little bit of what you got from AD, a little bit of what you're going to get from Mark Williams on the defensive side of things. And the most important thing is he's similar age to Mark Williams. He's young. He's super young. He is due for a contract soon. He, of course, signed that 9-figure deal a couple of years ago, but it's going to be a very interesting one. And we know Rob Pelinka came out and said that I think this offseason is going to be a lot of movement around the NBA. There are so many aggressive leaders of organizations that are expecting immediate success. I think there'll be a lot of opportunities for us to look at. I'm excited what will come our way. And this relates directly into what a trade would look like, because you're, of course, talking about, it takes two to tango here. You would have to have the Memphis Grizzlies. They would have to want to make a move like this. They would have to want to trade one of their cornerstones. And I think because of the way that the NBA is shifting, like, it's a lot more of a real possibility than it used to be. We saw the Mavericks trade Luka Doncic. We saw now, teams across the NBA being willing to shop. We're hearing Zion Williamson. Like, he'd be thrown in conversations for Giannis. Of course, not the same as this, but I think that the Memphis Grizzlies would be willing to entertain a package. Now, speaking of a package, let's dive right into it. So this dropped from yahoo.ca. The Grizzlies are open to retooling around John Morant and Desmond Bane. A blockbuster deal sending Jackson could be mutually beneficial. Now, this is one that, I would do. It's Jaren Jackson Jr. for Rui Hachimura, Dalton Knecht, a 2031 first-round pick, and a 2026 first-round pick swap. This is a deal I do 10 times out of 10, right? You're giving up your first and you're giving up a swap, but you are getting a center of the future. Now, if this package, let it down below, would you do this deal? I think most people would. The problem is, of course, like the NBA.com article said and the reporter said in there, like, they'll probably want Austin Reaves. And let me know down below, would you do a deal surrounding Jaren Jackson Jr. if it meant including Austin Reaves? Because that's a big question mark, and it's something that's going to have to be discussed a lot throughout this offseason is, will they be willing to trade Austin Reaves? From the way that Rob Pelinka is speaking, I don't think they will be. But a trade like this, you're giving up Rui Hachimura, who's fantastic. I don't want to underrate him. Dalton Knecht, who is your best prospect, but hadn't really played in the playoffs. And then 2 first-round picks, and you get one of the best centers in the league back. So I would do this in an absolute heartbeat, right? There's no doubt in my mind. We saw in the playoffs they used the same 5 players because they didn't have a center, and this ultimately ended up hurting them in Game 6 when they or Game 5 when they desperately needed to win that, to force it to a Game 6. Everyone was gassed. LeBron was gassed. Everybody there. Injuries were being dealt with. And we know Rob Pelinka said on getting a center, it's very clear the team needs more size in a center. It's very clear and obvious potentially traded the best big man in the league to Dallas. We just didn't have time after the Luka trade. Now we do. We will work hard. I think a trade like this, make this happen 10 times out of 10. I want to see it. And ladies and gentlemen, let me know down below what your thoughts are on this deal. And it would be a generational heist. And I think the Lakers are cooking up something big like this with the assets that they have left. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. Cheers.